You ever hear a story that sounds too wild to be true, like something out of a movie, except it happens in a place as dull as a corporate office? That's where this all kicked off on a Tuesday morning under those harsh humming lights on the 14th floor of PaverTech where nobody expects anything but coffee breath and spreadsheets. But you know what? Sometimes the most earth-shaking stuff comes from the last place you'd look. And in our case, it started with the simple question of why a printer sounded like it was crying. Now, I'd been at PaverTech for 6 years, seeing all kinds of shenanigans dressed up as business. But that day when the tech room burst into panic about old invoices spitting out with numbers that didn't match the system, it felt different. You could practically taste the fear in the air. Paul Jensen, the head finance guy, always perfectly put together hair like a silver helmet, he just about lost his color. Because those invoices were ghosts, supposedly long gone, part of some digital spring cleaning that should have wiped the slate clean. Except they were back and the numbers were all wrong. That's when the real twist walked in my 8-year-old daughter Emily with her hand tucked in mine. She's got this way of tuning into things adults tune out, like she's listening for a secret frequency. All the execs were flapping about, IT and reprint protocols, blaming hardware, blaming software, blaming anything but themselves. And Emily just leans over and whispers, "Mom, the printer's crying," just like when the maintenance guy put in that new system 3 months ago. Something's wrong. I'll be honest, my first instinct was to shush her, tell her not to let her imagination run wild, but Emily's got this track record of noticing stuff adults miss. She was the one who warned us the elevator was about to break, the one who figured out the goldfish in the lobby was sick. She listens to machines like most folks listen to music. So when she looked at Paul Jensen across the room with those big brown eyes, he froze up just for a second. That's when I started to realize maybe we should all be listening closer. Thing is, Emily never saw the world like the rest of us. To her, printers had personalities, conversations, even moods. The HP LaserJet near Paul's office had a totally different tone than the Canon by the break room, she'd say. And lately her favorite printer just sounded off. Sad, she said, like it was being forced to say things it didn't want to. I guess you can chalk that up to childhood innocence, but man, sometimes innocence cuts through the noise. Emily even started bringing this little tape recorder, a birthday gift from her grandma, capturing the printer's voice. She'd play back recordings from a week apart. And honestly, if you listened with an open mind, you could hear it too. The rhythm was different, the timing awkward, like the machine was stuttering under some invisible weight. "You hear it, Mom," she'd say, eyes shining with excitement. "It's like the printer's trying to say something important, but someone keeps cutting it off." Paul must have overheard one of these sessions because next thing I know, he's standing in the doorway smiling this brittle little smile and making some comment about interesting hobbies. But his eyes kept flicking to the tape recorder, and for a guy who's always in control, that flicker was as good as a confession. Emily, being Emily, asks, "Do you ever listen to the printers, Mr. Jensen?" He laughed it off, but you could tell the laughter was thin as paper. From that day on, the whole mood in the office shifted. The printer by Paul's office started running late into the night, always spitting out documents after hours. Emily watched everything when it ran, how long, what kind of documents came out. She started cataloging recordings, building a little audio archive like a pint-sized detective. Then one Monday, I had to reprint a batch of invoices. Routine work. Except this time, Emily pointed to the bottom of each page and said, "Look, Mom, the last line's cut off like someone told the printer to stop talking before it finished." She wasn't wrong. Every invoice was missing its last line, usually the totals and verification codes. You know, the important stuff. At that point, it stopped feeling like a glitch. Emily played me her tapes. Afternoon sessions were smooth complete, but nighttime prints were rushed, always cut short. "Someone's making the printer lie," she told me with the kind of certainty only a kid can muster. And suddenly, I was the one listening carefully. But here's the thing. Accusing a finance exec of document tampering is like trying to arrest the sun for rising. You'd better have more than a kid's tape recorder. So Emily and I started staying late. I pretended to be catching up on filing, but we were really waiting to see who'd show up after hours. Sure enough, 7:30 sharp. Paul came back, retrieved something from his desk, headed for the printer, and called someone to instruct them how to adjust costs and make sure the last line truncation was consistent. Emily got it all on tape. "He's the one making the printer cry," Emily whispered. And well, you know what I mean, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized we were sitting on proof of a years-long scam, a kid and her mom up against the company's most trusted exec. We knew we had to be smart. Over the next week, Emily made more tapes, cataloged invoices, tracked times, even charted out when Paul was in the office and when the printer cried the most. She started figuring out the math, tracking how much money was missing. "How much do you think he's taking?" she asked one night. All I could say was, "More than we can imagine." Eventually, it was time to confront the truth head on. That Thursday, I got the dreaded call to Paul's office. The walk down that hallway felt like marching to a firing squad. Paul, sitting there all polished and chilly, accused me of unauthorized printing, late-night access, and even industrial espionage, dragging my 8-year-old into it, no less. He tried to turn the whole thing around, make me the villain. And this is where having nothing left to lose is a gift. I laid it all out, evidence of systematic irregularities, tapes, documents. For a split second, his mask cracked. "You're making a very serious accusation," he said, "all but threatening my career, my reputation, my kid's future." I just told him I wasn't accusing. I was reporting what I'd found. Next thing I know, I'm put on administrative leave. But you know what? In that moment, I felt lighter than I had in years. Emily and I sat at home, wondering if we'd tanked our whole future for a printer's voice, but deep down, I knew we were on the right side. Emily didn't let up. She'd turned our dining room into a mini war room, stacks of invoices, tapes, a timeline of Paul's movements. She noticed every time the printer got tampered with, Paul made a phone call. She played me one tape where you could hear him talking numbers, instructing changes, the whole 9 yards. She'd even started running primitive accounting analyses showing how those small tweaks added up to millions stolen over years. But who'd believe us? Paul had authority friends in high places. That's when Emily suggested someone who cared more about truth than office politics, Marcus Webb, the IT manager, a real straight shooter. Monday morning, with shaking hands, I called Marcus. I told him everything. To his credit, Marcus listened, then came over to see the evidence. When Marcus saw Emily's work, he was floored. "Your daughter's caught a systematic fraud. Our audit team missed for years," he said, not even trying to hide his admiration. He spent 3 days running his own investigation, matching up every tape, every invoice. When he called with his findings, 10 million stolen through printer manipulation, I felt both vindicated and terrified. The board meeting that followed was the stuff of movies. Margaret Thornan, the chair, sat at the head of the table, and Marcus walked through the whole timeline, right down to Emily's tapes. Paul tried to laugh it off, dismiss it as a child's imagination, but the evidence was too solid. When confronted about his access codes and voice on the tapes, all he could do was ask for his attorney. Paul got escorted out, career in ruins, reputation shattered. Margaret turned to me and said, "Your daughter has our gratitude and a formal commendation. She's taught us all the value of paying attention." For the first time in months, I felt safe. 6 months later, everything's changed. The company created a new role for me, document security coordinator. The printers are behind glass now, every transaction logged and monitored. But the real shift was cultural. People speak up, trust their instincts, listen more. Emily became a sort of company legend. Her after-school visits now part of our daily routine. Even Mrs. Patterson from accounting drops by to thank her for making it okay to notice little things. Sometimes I ask Emily if she misses the thrill of solving the mystery, and she just shrugs. "I miss the puzzle, Mom, but I'm glad the printers aren't crying anymore. It feels good to know the truth is out, you know." Now, every afternoon, Emily greets the printers like old friends. "Hello, Mr. Murmuring. Good afternoon, Miss Quiet." I watch her, and I see a kid who learned that the world needs people willing to notice what others miss and to speak up, even when it's scary. So maybe next time you hear something off the low hum of a machine, a detail no one else cares about, maybe give it a little attention. Sometimes truth is hiding in the quietest corners, just waiting for someone to listen. And if this story got you thinking about the overlooked heroes in your own life, those who see what others miss, drop a comment, share your thoughts, or just listen a little closer today. Because trust me, it's those small voices that change the world.
Xin chào các bạn, mình là Trinh, mình phụ trách viết content. Trên đây là những công việc của mình.
Mas vamos supor, você falou negócio sério.
It is cold, yeah. Next one? Alright. Thank you, man. Hey, if you guys have any trouble, let somebody